We will start from the line that begins with K'mei Yizboir at the parentheses, V'hishtalshelus gufa. We're talking about Pnimi and Makif. And the whole time we are trying to distinguish between the two. Pnimi is that which identifies individual entities. Makif is that which encompasses everything, all of them, equally. Because all of them are part of this makif, of this real truth. And then we go a step deeper. And we're saying that this pnimi, these individual entities that are further identified as it becomes revealed, are not created, do not first materialize at the functional level. But really, they're all rooted in the one source. Let me just, we're going to start from Hishtashos Gufa, that's by the parentheses, which we already touched upon it. Let me say a few words inside. By Hishtashos Gufa, the actual Hishtashos, not only the soivev, that which is above the Hishtashos, which encompasses all, but the Hishtashos itself, the individual entities of the world, of the worlds, also have a root above. At the stage and in the level as they are included, incorporated and part of the Tzeinah Yisbarach of Hashem's will. What they're saying here is this, even by simple translation, they're saying, yes, indeed, there is a soivev that encompasses ultimately and surrounds everything at every level. But this phenomenon that they get surrounded is not a novel concept. First, they are individual entities, and then some superior aspect comes down and surrounds them. But they, on their own, are speaking exclusively of their individuality, of their differences, because they have no connection to one another. They each are created individually. This is how we may interpret it. And we're saying, no, this is not the case. Because ultimately, just as we said regarding the soivev, that is surrounding oil, that this soiviv does not surface, does not get created at the time when it's needed to encompass all the Giluim. But actually this soiviv is rooted and is contained within within the source of sources, even above even above the concept of world. The reason here for soiviv. And as we discussed, that this seems to be a kind of self-contradictory statement. There is nothing there, so what are you encompassing? There's an element of soiviv per se. We discussed it a little bit, and in Mitzvah Hashem, we will still try to get into it a little bit more. There's a soiviv prior to the time of the need of a soiviv, of the functional need of a soiviv. Now we're saying a further, even a deeper principle. We are saying that the individual entities, the pnimi, the individual worlds, the different worlds, Atzilus, Bria, Tzir, Asiya, which are extremely different worlds. And within them, within each world there stands spheres. Each sphere is a different quality. They are definitely different entities. So we're saying all of that has one single root. And at that stage, and the root stage, they are all one and all united.
And that's deeper than saying soiviv has a source.
That's right. So soiviv is a soiviv.
Yeah.
But this is individual entities.
To say that these pratim have a source.
These pratim are one in their source.
What?
You have to get into a little bit and get a little bit of a basis for this.
Yeah, it's basically deeper because it's less intuitive. You might think the pratim are derivative and therefore more nifrad, and it's more intuitive that the makif is united with or one with the source, but the pratim,
the makif is representing the one.
Yeah.
But the pratim are representing the creation.
Yeah.
Let me just introduce the general principle. Nothing occurs at any level that does not have a source. It's not included in the source of sources. As always, we present it with a moshel. The moshel bayas is, the classic moshel is the human being. The reason the human being is a classic moshel is because the human being is created b'tzalmei Kid Musayin. He is a divine representative. Human being is an anomaly in the world. He does not fit into the worldly context. Like we said the other day, he wakes up in the morning and he opens his eyes, and where does he look? He doesn't look at the ground. He doesn't look at his immediate surrounding. He looks way out. That's his encompassing. That's his perspective. And then when he goes back to his individual position, it is all identified with that way out reality.
This is to illustrate.
I'm sorry?
We're illustrating that everything's rooted in the source.
This I didn't get to that yet. I'm saying the human being. The human being is our classic example, illustration to understand the Inyan Malamayla. Why? Because the human being is
He's a marshal and he's an anomaly.
He's He's a marshal, and how is he a marshal? Because he is part of the world. He says no, he's an anomaly in the world. He's in the world, but he's really an anomaly. He's really higher than world. This is why he's a marshal. I think we misunderstood the point that I'm making. When I said the human being is an anomaly in the world, is to point out, to show how the human being is really higher than world, even though he's in the world. This is why it's called Betzal Melech in Museum. The human being is a divine representative in the world.
And therefore, we started with a statement: nothing happens at any level that is not rooted.
Okay,
in the
well,
source.
I didn't. Okay. So the human being, this is our means to approach and to understand the way things are in the Bible. Now the human being lives in the entire world. He uses everything in the world. As I said, the furthest distances, the infinity that is observed from his position, and every detail along the way. He identifies different contours on the ground, identifies different sections on the globe, the rivers and the brooks and the creeks and the oceans, everything is by him and identified. And the landscape where he lives itself is divided according to the functionality of the landscape. And then he goes and he further identifies. This piece of land, this is a good place to build a house. This is a good place to set up a shul, to set up a school, a playground, all kinds of different identities on the ground itself. Now, here's the point of what I want to say. All that is in order to bring forth the following point. After all is said and done, when the human being identifies with all the varieties that the world provides, that he himself identifies and creates, does not change who he is, does not make him different than he was when he first started out, when he first got up and looked out into the far horizon.
What's the question? Does what make him different? The dealings with the finitude?
Yes. Is that something which changes him? Which creates a different human being? No. When he was looking at the far horizon, he already incorporated all the varieties that he eventually surfaced and he created. Like we said, this was one of the difficult points. We said, he looks at the cup on the table. You know why he sees the cup on the table as real? Because he saw the horizon. We had some difficulty with this, but eventually it found its place. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol na'eh b'dvarim.
I mean, you ready?
Let me first tell you what the point is, and then you'll scratch your head. The point is to enable us to understand what the Rebbe says, excuse me, that the whole Hishtalshelus is one in its original state, in its origin. To understand that, we talk to human being.
Okay, I'm not really getting how. The truth is, all that's there in a very nascent form, right? I mean, if somebody used to stay as a baby their whole life, there wouldn't be a life. The fact that things do come out into a revealed state creates something different from them all being. And then secondly...
One second. Whatever materializes during a lifetime of development originates in what the human being is at infancy, at conception. If it were not so, then the human being would feel a stranger in his own world.
But it is true that a person in their life can go down multiple paths, and he can become familiar with this or that world.
But he feels comfortable with the multiplicity of the paths, because in his depth of reality, what he is, variety is all acceptable, because he's greater than all the varieties put together. He can speak 70 languages and feel absolutely comfortable with them.
And that's because everything is originating in his first reality.
That is because his first reality is so phenomenally real that anything that can happen finds a place in this reality.
It's already there, and so what comes later is never the period. It's always one fabric with a starting point.
This we discussed all throughout that whole time. When you build a house, it's a new house, it wasn't he before. It was he before.
Right, so this view goes beyond good and bad or better and worse. This is just, here's what this is. This is the divine greatness that is manifest in the divine creation. The greatness that is manifest in divine creation.
God created the world, and he gave the world of his status.
Which is to say there's sort of infinite specific paths.
That's right, exactly it.
A person can grow up single, married,
French, Turkish,
secular, communist.
Well, these are all things which are perversions of what the human being is. But even if
just to test that out, on what basis are they perverse if they're catered for in the original starting point?
Okay. The reason that they pervert is
they don't reflect.
No,
go ahead.
Okay, good.
They don't reflect the full richness or even part.
What is communism? Communism is taking one aspect of a human life and putting it all into the same basket, and disallowing anything else.
So it's a depravity. It's a perversion because it's this tiny aspect that might even be true on a certain, have an element of truth, but it's perverse.
That's right. And it so happens that the element of truth is what confuses people. Oh, they say good things.
Okay. Right.
Like what?
Shake hands. I think we broke through a great barrier over here.
Every day, every week.
But this
Okay.
one was a great one, I think. Yes, Shleiman.
He's asking
Yeah,
what's
well-
the truth.
Not important.
He was asking what is the truth in communism, and so people have material existence.
Yeah, communism said it was an antidote to monarchy, and said, we all live in the same land. Let's share it.
Yeah. Or
Work for each other. And it turned out a perversion of life altogether, It enslaved the people instead of freeing them up. The biggest error in all of these isms is that all the good ideas that they make the good ideas as the rulers, as the king, as God. But that God has to remain on top of everything. Then everything can work.
They replace it with God. This is what he's saying.
right.
What?
They replace God with this ism.
That's exactly it.
Yes.
That's exactly it. And this is where the downfall is. Downfall is. This is why they disallowed religion. Because this is because that does not give them a place to develop them their own perspective. In other words, their whole basis is a lie. They have to build it on a lie. This is not the real world that they're defining over here. Okay, having said all that, we're coming back to the principle. And everything, and when we say everything, it means absolutely everything. All the limitless variety that comes in world, in creation, in a world and in all worlds put together. All of that is included in the divine source, in the divine will that provides a place, provides a means for them to be.
Why? You could ask why are we being so generous? The most that happens in the world, we do say that the majority of things happening are Shekar, Alma de Shikra, and we just gave some examples. So maybe the path of all happening is very, very narrow, and there's a whole lot of noise that surrounds it. Why are we saying everything is originating, or nothing that happens at any level is not rooted in the source? Seemingly a huge amount of stuff is not rooted in the source.
Let me demonstrate to you the answer to your question. We all know what a table is. A table at its inception is a human concept and is rooted in the human dignity. And then it's brought forth on a physical level. This phenomenon, that this human concept can ultimately be brought forth on a physical level, tells you that the physical level is so broad, so limitless, that it can actually be used to demonstrate a deep human phenomenon that cannot even be identified as human dignity. This enormous expanse, encompassment, is so huge and varied that allows for Alma de Shikra. Where you say, you can easily say, no, the table is a board on four legs. We first came across a table when we walked down. This is what the stupid word, because a person was walking down and he saw a rock, and he had a cup in his hand and he didn't know what to do with it, and then he saw the rock. He said, "Oh, wonderful! I can put the cup down." And then he said, "Oh, why don't we build this rock in our dining room? This is the source of the dining room table." This is how the world defines all human development. And the world allows for it, because the world is so varied. Yes, you can find, excuse me, a representation of everything in the world. A table, a chair, a house, anything. Without recognizing as much that actually all of these things are rooted in the soul of man, and in the God, spirit that was imbued into the granted to the world. It is not a worldly development; it is divine provision, inspiration. This is where the error stems from, and this is where Alma de Shikra is born. We are saying in others, we are saying a human being walks because he can see the horizon thousands of miles away. And Alma de Shikra says, no, a human being walks because he has two legs. Just like the cat and the dog. This is why the Alma de Shikra makes a whole philosophy, ideal, intending for one's dog. They hold the dogs and they kiss them, and on this, they hold like a baby. They admire the dogs. They focus their life on that of the dog. So this is all. Okay, then this we went into the Alma Shikra, in the Shikra area. But coming back to the Emes, the Emes world, now there is a divine inspiration, spirit, source, and truth from whence everything comes. The human being is a very good demonstration of that. And this is what we are saying where we are right now in the parentheses. Hishtauschelus gufa, the very chaining down of the different worlds. You would think they're so varied and so different. Completely novel presence. At the state and in the manner as they are included in Hashem's will. This is where they are in. This is what provides a possibility for them. The whole Histalshlus, Atzilus, Bria, Atzilus, and a higher Atzilus. Then Gamkim Bahashva, they're in total equality. From Hashem's perspective, Hashem's Rotzen, Atzilus and Asiya are identical. Okay, having done that, we will start going into the line that begins Hengankim Hashva. And as we explained earlier, Esesphiras Agnosis. We were talking about Esesphiras Agnosis. It says Esesphiras Agnosis is the treasured and the hidden, concealed Esesphiras. These Esesphiras Agnosis are Golos. Where are they Golos? In their source, in the Ein Sof. So we explained over there, Sheheim bibchinas isagdos mamos, that all 10 spheres are in isagdos mamos, in absolute unity. There are 10 spheres, not because there are 10 things, because there's one truth that can be seen from 10 different ways. The beginning is Yisaldus Mamash. Mipnei, the next line. Why are they be Yisaldus Mamash? Total unity among themselves. Because she'einam bebechinas mitzius le'atzman klal. Because they are not a mitzius unto themselves at all. They are there because of the divine truth. The Ratzon Eliki. The Ratzon Eliki is broad enough and deep enough that it has everything as a spheres. And it's all in perfect unity. This Esesphiris now became a marshal for world. That the same thing is the world. The worlds, as they are identified and present before the Tzimtzum, in the divine truth itself. Behold, they are not in a state of mitzius at all. They tell their worlds, but their presence there is due to the divine depth and greatness, not because of the mitzius of the world themselves. And as it's be explained earlier, Ubekama Dalet means Ubekama Duchti. I have to admit I would not have known if not for the footnote over here. Obachama duchti, as we explained in many places, beinyan oisius horshimu, shelifnei hatzimtzum. It's explained regarding oisius of the rishimu. What is a rishimu? The word rishimu means a trace. Just when you write something and then you erase it, you cannot erase it to the point where it renders it as if it was never here. There is a trace, there is a cognizant element that something was here. That's called the reshim. So the rishimu it's a reshim. What is it a reshim of? It's a reshim of the SS spheres aglusis as they were before the tzimtzum. After the tzimtzum, there's a reshim of the SS spheres. Nice. Can we closely the sound? Can we soundproof it? No.
You mean the snoring?
Yeah. Oisius horshimu l'shnifnei hatzimtzum. These are oisius that really are before the tzimtzum. Before the tzimtzum, very, very generally, I just want to introduce. Before the tzimtzum means the way the inyonim are from a godly perspective completely, exclusively. No world. In that perspective itself, there's a root for oisius and for tzimtzum. But as they are there, they're not imitzis. They're due to the infinity of the divine infinity. There is not a mitzias dover chas v'sholem at all. There is nothing there. There's only the divine truth. Okay, and for this reason, before the tzimtzum, hakoil bibchinas ardus, everything, all is bibchinas ardus in a total and absolute unity, because they all represent the one single reality. V'kulam heim b'hashvo, and they're all there b'hashvo. B'hashvo means equality. Even though there are 10 spheres, and 10 spheres of different worlds, they're all different levels. From the perspective, and looking at it from the perspective of the divine reality at that stage, they're all b'hashvo, they're all absolutely equal.